wanted to show something on the live stream, on this vertical live stream is. That's why it's positioned the way it is. So don't ask me why it's set up like that. These are vertical live streams, which means they're literally vertically positioned. I can change it in my settings if I so choose, but this is convenient. And let's be honest, most people watch stuff on their phones anyway, so the vertical live streams is rather convenient for a lot of people to watch in the way that most people watch YouTube on their devices, which is usually on their phone or tablet, as opposed to their laptop, desktop, or their smart TV. For those who prefer to watch it in those widescreen devices, sorry. But in any case, I'm about to put on some glasses and share something, dealing with what I've been talking about, and a video that I will have come up recorded pretty soon, talking about stuff dealing with foundational black Americans and why Obama sucks. Okay. But in the nuts, is this bothering anyone? This glare? Because I can cover that. But I'm going to work out, but I'm waiting for the sun to settle. I'm here in Maryland and it's currently 90 degrees Fahrenheit for my people overseas who prefer Celsius. um, which means it's blazingly hot, and I've learned my lessons running in hot heat. It has been hot since this morning because I failed to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do it at a reasonable time. So I wasn't going to do it any time after 8 a.m. until the until the sunset. And like I said, it was 90 degrees around 4:30. So yeah, um, I made that mistake a long time ago. It was close to 100 degrees. This was like 4 or 5 years ago, and I ran a 10 miler in in almost 100-degree weather, and I suffered some mild heat issues, so I had to rehydrate, and it it, it was a bad day, but I finished it. It was the first time I did it at that, and to have done it in such extreme heat was not a wise idea. Like I had to drag myself to the house to finish, but which I did though. So I was proud that I. I'm gonna grab my glasses because I actually want to share with you guys something I did and how it relates to foundational Dickens. First, a little homework. So I've mentioned this in several videos before, guys. Foundational Black American is a term started by um, the podcaster named Tariq Nasheed. I don't know if all of the stuff that he talks about. He's in that pro-black school, which I am not, but I agree with the designation foundational Black American. My new tandem, hey, what's up, my friend? My video's bad. Tell me, sir, would you like me to take get the glare removed by closing the shade? I can do that. I just thought it would project a natural light, but if you think that's bad, I can cover that up. Anybody? Uh, Close the shade up and get better lighting. Okay, got you. As I will do that, sir. Hold on here, and I'll put on some artificial lighting. Actually, this is a pretty new phone, my friend. I'm just not good at doing lighting. That is something my wife is better at doing. Apologize for that. So, back to what I was saying. Thank you, Millet. Did What was I saying? So, to just cover my bases here, Tariq Nasheed has came up with the term foundational Black American. What it designates is basically Black Americans, particularly from the South, but not just the South, who've been in this country before 1860. Basically, the people who've arrived here when it was still a colony, became and were still coming once it was a new founded nation. Hello, hello, there in Serbia. That I think that's one of the countries I will be visiting soon. For those who don't know, I like to travel, so I'm part of the passport bro movement, but that's a different topic for another day. Star Wars, that's all me. um, so foundational Black Americans again are Black folks who've been in the country before 1860, mostly coming from the antebellum South, but basically all the 13 original colonies, and have been here since. We count people after 1860 as more as the Black migrants and so forth. And so, like I said, my friend and I do a really scathing video about the former President Obama within the African diaspora. All right, sorry for that, guys. All right, so a little reading glasses here. So I'm going to read something to you guys. My internet did phase out. Um, so again, I'm about to talk about foundational Black Americans, such as myself. Part of my background. So my grandparents. So my maternal grandmother came from the eastern shore of Maryland, which was a historical slave port. Okay, my maternal grandfather came from North Carolina, another historical slave port. Uh, both of my paternal grandparents, grandmother and grandfather, came from Virginia, which is obviously had a huge slave port, right? So foundational Black American, which also some people also call ADOS or American Descendants of Slavery. I don't like that term personally because I don't think one should be defined by such a dehumanizing event such as the transatlantic slave trade. And foundational Black American covers that ADOS designation while not also just limited to that. It's basically foundational Black American sounds better, and it also covers the fact that these people were the foundation for the early part of this nation. So again, this theme is about foundational Black Americans, okay? And I'm going to go over my own ancestry because what I've done several years ago, I did the a DNA testing through the Geno Project, which is done from National Geographic. So National Geographic has their own DNA kit for people who don't know. They even did a docu series on their channel about it. The version I did was the 2.0, which kind of expands what they do. And as more people have taken their testing, they have expanded their sample size, which gives more accurate readings of people's ancestry. The difference between like the Genographic project from National Geographic as opposed to others from like Ancestry.com and stuff like that. Ancestry.com and those other places honestly are just doing educated guesses. Okay, they're doing educated guesses. Um, and they give you good, like Ancestry I think is good for giving you information about past relatives, but beyond that it's not very accurate as far as telling you yet your ethnic ancestry. Genographic project does this very well because their mission is to use all these all this data that they're getting from these people taking the testing to the Adam or Adam and Eve, whatever. This says your ancestral journey. The origin of our species lies in Africa. It's where we first evolved and where we've spent the majority of our time on Earth. We've have since migrated to every corner of the globe, a journey that is written in our DNA. With the samples, we ran a comprehensive analysis to identify thousands of genetic markers, breadcrumbs in your DNA, which are passed down from generation to generation. By looking at the order in which these markers occurred, over time we can trace the journey of your ancestors out of Africa. Furthermore, with these markers, we have created a human family tree. Everyone alive today falls on a particular branch of this family tree. We have examined your markers to determine which branch you belong to. The results of our analysis, your personal journey, are outlined below. And the reason, again, I'm giving this is because I believe that my ethnic background is typical of most FBA, of most foundational Black Americans, as opposed to um, Africans overseas or Afro Latinos or Afro Caribbeans. I think Black foundational Black Americans have a unique but common ancestry, which is we have a mixed ancestry. Okay. My phone quality is giving potatoes. I'm sorry. I've I think it's where I am in my house. The signal goes in and out. So if it does that too much, I'll just shut down the stream and redo this. But so far, it's holding tight. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna skip the part where it says your genetic matches because this was basically just something given to people to show them how far removed they are genetically from very important people in history. Like I said, Napoleon, zero matches for me. Um, Petrarch, 15 matches. Um, Abraham Lincoln, Genghis Khan, Leo Tolstoy, Charles Darwin, um, Queen Victoria, Nicholas Copernicus, Benjamin Franklin, Marie Antoinette, Thomas Jefferson, whom I think on my father's side, we do claim actual ancestry to him. Matter of fact, so one of my uh, sisters, all my sisters are half sisters. I won't get into that here, but on my all my paternal sisters, half sisters, and I um, basically share some relation to Jefferson from my father's side of the family, particularly my paternal grandmother. Her, she and all her family still reside in that part of Virginia where the Jeffersonian land was, he created. For folks who don't know, Jefferson started UVA, University of Virginia, and there's still a huge tract of land for the Jefferson Library and plantation there in that area in Charlottesville, Virginia, where the whole thing went down a long time ago, the premises rally or whatever. So all my, most of my most of her family still lives in that area, or they live, well, a lot of them have moved to New Jersey or Boston or wherever. But it's not hard to realize that they claim Jefferson ancestry there. I mean, we know through DNA testing now that there was a lot of Black people related to Jefferson through his slave Sally Mae. Okay, and I guess she is one of our ancestors on my father's side of the family. So I remember my sister was even featured in something that Oprah did a long time ago, showing the the scion of Jefferson, of Thomas Jefferson. So purportedly we are related to him. So that's funny that he does come up as one of my paternal matches. So that kind of confirms something that was rumored in our family background on his side of the family. The rest of these are very unlikely. Like showing other, and again, these aren't actual DNA matches. These are just showing how far removed people who take this test are related to these historical figures. Okay, like King Tut, Napoleon, Maria Theresa, Sir Francis Drake, Nikola Tesla. Um, and it gives like the science behind the matches. Um, I don't really want to go into all of that because again, that's kind of tangential to the actual like ancestry revealed that it gives here, and it gives, like I said, it gives a pretty accurate revealing of my ethnic ancestry, not um, by nationality so much, but you know, it does do nationality too. But let me look at some of these comments first before I go too far ahead. Milik asked me, how are people in the U.S.? Can you tell me that living in America is good? I would like to say living in America is good. To be honest, it's going to be relative to where you currently live. I don't know the situation in Serbia for the average Serbian citizen. America, I'll put it this way: for a running joke amongst me and my friends is that America is just a third world country wearing Gucci. In other words, you have like you have in many countries overseas, you have people who are extremely wealthy and then people who are extremely poor. America used to be defined by its thriving middle class, but its middle class has shrank so considerably that it's a stratified society in a way that it hasn't been since the Gilded Age in the 1920s. Um, and this is one of the things that has made people latch on to populist um, politicians like Trump or Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders. That's I don't want to go too far askew because that's a completely different topic. But I hope that answers your question. Um, what's up to Lifetime with Jose? He's watching from Croatia. Got some people from okay, from Eastern Europe and so forth. That's what's up. Free retracted statements. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead with this. You guys can keep commenting and asking me questions. All right. So again, those matches that I was just talking about are called so-called genius matches, which just I think they did for anyone who took the test at the time, the 2.0. They might have had the 3.0. So sorry, it's going to show it backwards on the video. Okay. Let's see. But those matches to the to so-called historical figures who are geniuses is just to make people feel good about themselves for taking the test to show, hey, I'm related. I'm distantly related to this historical figure that I learned about in class once. Some guys saying some wild stuff. So, all right. So now we're gonna go over regional ancestry. This is the meat and bones of the National Geographic project testing. Okay. So your regional ancestry, 500 years to 10,000 years ago. We are all more than the sum of our parts, but the results below offer some of the most fascinating and newest information possible with your Gene 2.0 next generation test. In this section, we display your affiliations with a set of 22 world regions. This information is determined from your entire genome, so we're able to see both parents' information going back 6 generations or more. By the way, this so only males can do this. So males can trace both lines of their um, of their ancestry because you have your matrilineal line, which I think is your mitochondrial DNA. They trace your matrilineal genetic line through your mitochondrial DNA, and I think your paternal DNA comes through your nuclear DNA. I think they do explain this, so I'm gonna just keep reading. Okay. Um, so your percentages reflect both recent influences and ancient genetic patterns in your DNA due to how groups migrated to and from different regions, mixing for hundreds or even thousands of years. Your ancestors may have also mixed with ancient, now extinct hominid cousins like Neanderthals. Remember that part. All right. Um, Cheddar was asking, what about RH negative people? What do you mean RH? Um, if you or your parents have an admixed background, this pattern can get complicated very quickly. Use the reference population matches below to help you understand your results. So, yeah. All right. No, I'm not going to oil up and say free art. That no, that doesn't make sense. Actually, nothing. Yes, they were. So before I go into this and my results, just know that yes, modern humans or biologically modern humans 200,000 years ago did mix with Neanderthals because what was commonly believed was they died out either through constant warring with modern humans or being outcompeted for the same resources. What we realize is that they actually did blend with modern humans. So most people with European, particularly Europe, Northern and Western European ancestry, have a significant amount of Neanderthal um, DNA. Likewise, with Asians, quite a bit of them have Denisovan ancestry. That was another early hominid ancestor of ours, but lived within the Asian continent, particularly, I believe, like Central and East Asia. So they don't have Denisovan ancestry. People with a European background will have Neanderthal. Uh, as far as continental Africans, not sure, but again, Black Americans have an admixture of ancestry, which is actually quite typical of foundational Black Americans. This is why I'm actually doing this because I wanted to show you how common it is my own ancestral journey for a lot of foundational Black Americans. And like I said, in another video that I'm going to post soon that I was going to do this. It's just that I ended up doing the live stream first because I have to do some editing to that other video. All right. Let me go into these comments before I start. Talk about CERN. Are you talking about the CERN labs, like the the physics labs in Switzerland and France and all of that? Because that's a completely different topic. I'm not sure what would be the conversation about that. Are you talking about the discovery of like their ability to create like I think they did like a micro black hole recently, looking at some scientific articles that I haven't read yet. Mike Bill asks, how many times do you eat? You're talking to me? Well, typically, I don't have a set amount of meals. I eat whatever I want pretty much because I run 10 kilometers a day at a minimum and usually do a second run as well as my martial arts and my calisthenics, or I go to the gym to do some strength training. um, Homo sapien killed Homo erectus. Talk what? No, Homo erectus and Homo sapien did not live at the same time. Homo neanderthalis, the Neanderthals and modern humans lived together, as well as the Denisovans. They lived together, and also there was what they have termed hobbits that had lived in parts of Southeast Asia, particularly in Indonesia and maybe also the Philippines that were seemed like a diminutive form of I forget which group, and they might have been a diminutive form of Homo habilis. I'm not sure. I don't remember, um, but modern humans didn't kill off Homo erectus. That's not accurate. And again, I don't know what you mean about CERN. Greetings, Bombay. What country in Africa are you from, sir? Nothing says I'm Hispanic, bro, going back to the Spaniards and ancient Mayans, all the white people. All right, all right. um, I don't get the whole oil up thing. It's too hot to be oiling up. That's no diddy. My president has a face like Beetlejuice. Do you remember that little guy? I remember there was some Serbian president. I don't know the current president. I'm sorry, I'm not up on those on the leaders there. Hi Noah, Arnold Schwarzenegger for president. He won't. He's not able to run. People, if you're if you're not a naturalized citizen, you can't run for president in this country. I think that's a good thing because otherwise it would fall to foreign influences. Because the guy Cenk Uygur, who's born in Turkey, who runs the Young Turks news program, wants to run for president, and he's disqualified because he's not a natural born American citizen. So Schwarzenegger will never be able to run. There were there were calls for him 20 years ago to for them to amend the Constitution to allow him to run, but I don't think we should amend our entire Constitution just for one likable person to run for president. So that will never happen. I'm doing well, Mythical Duck. Thank you. Oh, you're in Cameroon. Okay, thanks. Cameroon's going through some stuff recently, so be safe over there. Beetlejuice. I don't remember that president. I'm sorry, Malik. All right, so now that I've gone through that, I'm going to reveal my percentages of the different places where my ancestors came from. Beetlejuice. Are you talking about the black guy Beetlejuice that used to be on the Howard Stern show? Is that what you're talking about? Because that's the only Beetlejuice I'm familiar with is the the little person, the black guy who used to be on the Howard Stern show. He might still be on the show. That's the only one. Cameroon Northwest Region, Bamenda. Okay. Like I said, be safe because I don't know what parts of Cameroon was going through some turmoil and which parts weren't. I had a friend from Cameroon in college. I lost touch with them though. What do I do for work? So I do some sales. I'm also a part-time martial arts coach, but I work in financial services mostly. Beetlejuice. Yeah, I remember he passed away. That's why I was asking. That's why I was confused what you were talking about. All right, so anyway, I'm gonna launch into this. Fife Dog passed away, sir. So that's not really funny. If you're a person who knows Tribe Called Quest. Anywho, I'll get back into the comments after I go over this. So my biggest amount of ancestry, no surprise here, comes from Western Africa. It's 70%. Okay, the West African component of your DNA has roots that are likely 100,000 years old, spanning most of the western regions of sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, maybe you guys can see that there. Okay, hold up, let me. Sorry, I had to get this eyelash out of my eye. Okay, so it says African Americans as well as other African diaspora groups share this lineage. The split between this cluster and the hunter-gatherers of the central and southern African forests and deserts date back to the the quote out of Africa end quote event more than 60,000 years ago. In more recent times, farming began in Nigeria and quickly expanded east, south, and then southeast. Within the last 2,000 years, Bantu farmers with origins in West Africa spread throughout Africa. A mixture of resident populations, this cluster spread with the historic Muslim expansion from the Middle East and the New World slave trade. See, today this ancestry is seen people with West African roots, including Senegalese, Ghanaians, Liberian, Guinean, and Nigerians, as well as people with more Saharan ancestry, such as those from Mali, Mauritania, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad. Throughout the Western world, African Americans, Afro Caribbeans, and Afro Brazilians also carry this genetic fingerprint in high numbers. Again, when they say African Americans, we're talking particularly about foundational Black Americans. Okay. Let me go into the comments before I go into the next one. Imagine, imagine knowing your ancient grandfather had no ribs, so he had to smash Neanderthal. Couldn't be me. And it's worse than that. It's worse than that, my dude. Because let's be honest, most of our great grandfathers probably just snatched up a woman. That is what it is. We can't be held responsible for what our ancestors did. We can only be responsible for what we do and our children. Um, Let me see. I'm gonna ignore some of these that aren't really relevant. What do y'all feel about rallying speeches, and what's your opinion of the Jews? Um, well, I've given my opinion on the Israeli-Palestinian issue in several videos. I actually did a whole live stream last week on that. It was 2 hours long, and I pretty much detail all my thoughts on that, as well as short videos that I've done. So I'm not going to go over that again. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. And I don't know who Armalite Slung Sentinel was talking to it here, but I don't know. Al Kelly 2121 is back. He's giving some conspiracy theory information, so I'm not gonna go there with that. Um, Anyhow, so that's the first part. So 70% of my ancestry is Western Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa mostly. Here come Northwestern Europe, 17%. Yes, your boy is 17% European. Well, more than that, but Northwestern Europe to be specific. So this says this region of Northern Europe is a biogeographical composite of populations that include British, Scottish, Irish, Welsh, Northern French, Belgians, Dutch, Danish, and some Scandinavian and German groups. So much more than established historical population, it is a prehistorical region characterized early on by a long period of glaciation and with episodic habitation by hunter-gatherer groups migrating from the south and east. With the advent of agriculture and the spread of plant domestication some 8,000 to 6,000 years ago, the people of northwestern Europe grew from the mix of the early settlers and new farmers. Over the past 4,000 years, the region became subdivided into the ethnic and political entities we know now. This biogeographical region is seen in many people of European ancestry, as well as most people living in the US, Canada, and Australia today. It is also seen in small percentages in groups from Latin America, as well as in countries that were part of the British Empire of the 18th and 19th centuries. So, again, this confirms what most Black Americans know, that a significant part of our ancestry is European, right? Um, yeah, Armalites, Lung Sentinels on some crazy stuff, so I'm not going to acknowledge those comments. Let's keep it let's keep it cool here, okay? How you doing, Ibrahim? Doing well, sir. All right, so far, I've shown that 70% of my DNA background comes from Western Africa. 17% comes from Northwestern Europe. Here's the next one: Eastern Africa, 7%. I didn't expect much to be from Eastern Africa. Most foundational Black Americans were brought here after they were captured by countries in Western and Central Africa, not really Eastern Africa. So I wouldn't think it would be much of that in my DNA. Okay, so 7% Eastern Africa. This component of your ancestry is associated with the birthplace of modern humans, as well as the departure point for mankind's first migration out of Africa. The region includes the area south of the Sahara Desert, east of the Congo rainforest, and Africa's Great Rift Valley, and west to the Indian Ocean. Some of the most important human ancestor fossils were discovered here, including the infamous Lucy, the Australopithecus afarensis, as well as some of the oldest anatomically modern human fossils, dating back some 200,000 years. East Africa is home of some of the most ancient mitochondrial DNA lineages, strengthening the theory that this is where humanity began. Historically, this region saw an influx of Bantu speakers and the eventual conversion to pastoralists, a population well adapted to the wide open savannas. Today, the ancestral component occurs at highest frequency in people from Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, Uganda, and Tanzania. The video's still bad. It looks good on my end. Are you guys? Is it still glitchy on your end? Marvin, I know Marvin said so. Marvin, KV42. It's looking copacetic on my end, but if it's not for you guys, I'm sorry. It looks like it's fine on my end. I think when you're doing the live stream, you can't tell if it's being poorly received on the other end. Like I only can see when it's being glitchy on my end. Okay. All right. So the next one, Southwestern Europe, 2%. And before I go into that, I want to go back to Northwestern Europe, where I said I have 17% DNA ancestry. So that confirms again the whole fact that some of my family claim ancestry going back to people like Thomas Jefferson, and also my father's side, he claims that some of our ancestry comes from some Dutch Jews, Dutch Jewish folks. So so this may be within that line. So Southwestern Europe, 2%. Here we go. Interestingly, Southwestern Europe may have been the last refuge of Neanderthals. Told you. Due to its relatively sheltered position during the last glacial maximum, European hunter gatherers also may have taken refuge there 20,000 years ago. Eventually, the first farmers arrived in the region from the eastern Mediterranean, and these are the ancestors of the modern day inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula and neighboring regions. Connections across the Mediterranean dating back to prehistory and down to the medieval period connect Iberians with other coastal peoples, especially groups in northern Africa. Some southwestern Europeans also migrated across the Straits of Gibraltar, leading to a mutual genetic exchange. This cluster was also the pioneer explorer, the group that expanded over 500 years ago to the Americas. as the Spanish and Portuguese established empires around the world. So going back to my friend Nothing Nothing there, they was talking about his his Latin and Spanish roots. So that time I did see it glitch, guys. I did see it glitch. So I'm sorry. Looks like it's back. So another 2%. This is Southern Africa. Native to humanity's birthplace, Southern Africa is an ancestry that likely never left its homeland for 150,000 years. In fact, it is the most distinctive and isolated of clusters residing in the southern regions of the continent. It peaks in the regions where agricultural presence is minimal, as in the Kalahari Desert. The southern African cluster likely originated with some of the earliest hunter gatherers, but because of its geographical limitations, its recent history has been one of decline and heavy assimilation. Though rarely dominant in any individual, Southern Africa's widespread distribution indicates how pervasive it was until recently. Today, this lineage occurs in highest frequencies in the Khoisan people. If you don't know the Khoisan people, those are the people in Africa that had those languages that sound clicky, like not trying to be funny, but their their language literally has a bunch of series of clicking sounding noises. But these are all, they're not just doing it, like these are actual like words and what we might say in linguistics, morphemes. Okay. Uh, and these, so example is in the famous sand bushmen of the Kalahari Desert, as well as neighboring groups in South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. So that makes it all up, guys. So let me skip ahead, because some of this stuff just reiterates what it was just saying. So it says, "What's your results mean?" Okay. Sorry. Uh, we are all more than just the sum of our parts, but the regional percentages below offer some of the most fascinating information in your genotest. In this section, we display your affiliations based on a set of 22 world regions. This information is captured from points across your entire genome, so we're able to see both parents' information going back 6 generations or more. Your percentages reflect mostly recent influences, yet they may also show some ancient patterns in your DNA due to mixing of groups from different regions over hundreds, if not thousands, of years. If you have a very mixed background, the pattern can get complicated quickly. Use the reference population matches below to help you understand your unique results. So, Christian Gelly, yes, we are all mixed. When you go back far enough in your family tree, you realize we're all mixed. There was a very colored um, colored way of talking about this in the American South, that some a lot of white Southerners used to say, that they used to say, if a white person looks far enough in their tree, a nigga will fall out. I know that's crass, but they weren't wrong. So um, give let me do this real quick, Bombay, and then you can ask your question. Okay, just give me 2 minutes. All right, all right. So my first reference population is African American, obviously, which again refers to foundational Black Americans. This is why it's more accurate to say foundational Black American than African American, because that can also refer to recent migrants from Africa, and that gets confusing because we're not the same ethnic, both in our ancestry, as I'm showing here on my very ancestry test, and culturally either, because we've had a different struggle as Black Americans have arrived in America as early as 1619. So, whereas the recent African migrants came after 1860, particularly in the late 19th and um, 20th centuries. So, it says the mixture of regions here is due to the centuries long forced slavery from Africa to the Americas during the slave trading era, Western and Central Africa, Southern Africa, and Eastern Africa. This is also a European contribution to the population comprising the smaller Northwestern and Southwestern Europe components. So it gives the breakdown of the average foundational Black American or African American. So for the average African American, their Western African background is 65%. Their average percentage of Central African is 15%, Northwestern Europe 12%, and Southern Africa 8%. That's the common African American. So mine is pretty similar to that, but a little bit different. Mine is 70% Western Africa, 17% Northwestern Europe, 7% Eastern Africa, 2% Southwestern Europe, and 2% Southern Africa. So unlike the average sample of for an African American, I have no Central African captured in my DNA, but I also have Southwestern Europe, which isn't in the average African American, and I have a lower percentage of Southern African, which is only 2%. And I also have more Northwestern Europe, 17% compared to 12% for the average African American or foundational Black American. So the other reference populations don't really matter because the second reference population was Senegalese, which is not really relevant to me. The first reference population, African American, was the most relevant, so I wanted to go over that. Okay, so now that I went over that, Bombay, go ahead, ask your question, and I'm gonna answer these guys too. So, what makes you a contrarian? I'm actually not a contrarian. It's a running joke. My the title of my channel, Just A Contrarian, is a running joke because I'm a bit skeptical minded, and I don't always agree with what people say because it's commonly accepted. And oftentimes people will be called contrarian if they don't agree with what everyone else says. They're like, "Oh, you're just a contrarian." So that's where I get the name for my YouTube channel from. Oh, you're just a contrarian because if you people don't like when you don't agree with them. So if you don't agree with them and they happen to have the mainstream point of view, then going against the mainstream point of view will make people think you're a contrarian. I'll only disagree with something not to be a contrarian, but because I don't find that mainstream point of view as reasonable or with enough evidence to support it. But what a true contrarian is someone, like I said, a contrarian is usually someone who will go against whatever is the mainstream view because it makes them seem smarter by proxy by just being the one who says, "No, oh, that's wrong." And you see this in academic circles, you see this amongst people and just like at a cocktail party where it'll be someone who disagrees with everyone else and to them that makes them seem like the smartest person in the party. That's a contrarian. That's what I'm not. I just use the term because I think it's funny that I'm often called that if I don't agree with someone. And in the Black community they like to police each other's thoughts and opinions. So if you don't agree with the mainstream view in the Black community, they have a bunch of choice words to use for you. Contrarian is the nicest one. All right. I hope that answers the question. But yeah, just a contrarian is just a running joke that I don't always agree with what is the mainstream view of things. But I'm not a contrarian, at least not most of the time. Oh, so answer my question, how does it feel not knowing your ancestors had no Riz? First of all, no one used Riz, and I'm sorry, I'm not a millennial, I'm not Gen Z, I'm Gen X, so I'm not gonna say Riz. I got swag, son. And hey, like I said, everyone's ancestors has some embarrassing moments. Believe that. Like I said, you go far enough, and our male ancestors were doing some pretty rough stuff. I'll leave it that. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, basically just critical thinking. That's exactly it. That's exactly it, sir. Again, people don't like critical thinkers because if you challenge someone's opinion on something, it makes them feel bad because it makes them think maybe I wasn't right, or maybe I'm not as smart as I think I was, or everyone can be thought everyone can be wrong or mistaken on something. That's called intellectual humility. But that's not always the case with people. So they are rather is psychologically more advantageous to see the other person as being wrong and just being wrong headed than to admit that they may have made a mistake in their reasoning. We all make mistakes. We're all wrong on some things. So, yeah. What country has the strongest military? Not really relevant here. And it depends on how you define strong. Are you defining strong by the biggest? Or are you defining strong by the most capable? You're talking about the biggest, you might say China. They have the largest standing army, the People's Liberation Army. They have the largest navy. But are they the most capable? I doubt it. I would say America probably has the most capable military. Most of the Chinese army hasn't been vetted in any wars. They haven't fought a war since the 70s with Vietnam. And spoiler alert, they lost. They lost to Vietnam. So that was the last time they were vetted. Didn't the Mayans sacrifice the weaker Mayans? I don't know. Rather have that in my ancestry than having a history of such and such and grape. They all graped. They all did. They all did. And when you go back into pre um, pre modern societies, they all did it. That's why there's always been a universal taboo against it because they all did it. And killing and sacrificing was horrific. Horrific. That's some of the things that the Mayans did kind of brought down their own town downfall. I mean, they're still with us today because you know there's still Mayans that exist here today. Matter of fact, they've been in movies. Um, we've seen them recently in that Black Panther sequel. Those folks they were using actual Mayans in that movie, or the Mel Gibson movie Apocalypto. They use actual Mayans. They actually use the Mayan language in Apocalypto. They're still here, but their empire crumbled because of things that weren't sustainable long term. So anyway, so that wasn't it, guys. So right before I close this out, again, I'm not going to go through all the stuff where it talks about the branches. Um, let's see, but I'm gonna just peek through this to see if I want to go through all this stuff because it goes into a lot of these specific genetic markers, like like the first one that says branch L1, age 140,600 years ago, plus or minus 33,350 years, location of origin Africa. I know that's going to be pretty dry, so I'm not going to go through all of that. I wanted to get to something that I did hint at the beginning of the stream, though, and that nothing keeps bringing about with we're talking about pre-hominid ancestors, which and harkens back to what I was saying about most people who have European ancestry is dun, dun, I have Neanderthal ancestry. Not very much. Currently 0.7%. The average is 1.3%, but it's there. And most people are going to have a very small amount. So your hominin ancestry, when our ancestors first migrated out of Africa around 60,000 years ago, they were not alone. At that time, other species of hominin, our evolutionary cousins, walked the Eurasian landmass. One of these cousins was the Neanderthals. As our modern human ancestors migrated throughout Eurasia, they encountered these hominins and interbred, resulting in a small amount of Neanderthal DNA, for example, being introduced into modern human gene pool. Thanks, nothing. Yeah, hope to see you in my next live stream as well. I will let guys know, let everyone know when I'll do another one. So most non-Africans are about 1.1% Neanderthal. The percentage is calculated using a sophisticated analytical method that looks at part of your DNA that you share with these hominin populations, as well as your complete regional ancestral components. The science around this calculation is new, and it is thanks to participation from citizens like you that we continue to learn more and improve on this method. For this reason, your hominid result may change slightly over time as our accuracy and understanding improves. And that's how you know this is good science, because it's self-correcting. So that my percentage of Neanderthal and probably the other ones as well will change as they get a bigger sample size through the Genographic Project. Because their stated goal for the National Geographic Project is to create a genetic family tree of all modern humans. And so that's why they're able to do that, and they can give more accurate information as the sample size increases. So that's just what I wanted to go over, guys. And I wanted to show that, again, my admixture of African and European, particularly Northwestern African, Northwestern European, is pretty common for foundational Black Americans, where you're not going to see this in recent African migrants who are going to be like somewhere between 80-90% African, whether Northwestern African, Southern African, Eastern African, or Central African. That's not going to be the case with me. Did Bombay ever ask his question? Because I'm about to close this out, sir. So if you're going to ask, if you're still here, go ahead and ask your question. Otherwise, I'm about to end this stream. And I think the heat has come down enough that I can probably go for a mild 10K. I'm not going to run fast and burn myself out. But yeah, that's it. Like I said, it's more to it. And if, like I said, if you guys want to take one of those yourself, it's called the Geno 2.0 Next Generation. It's the Genographic Project. And it's pretty affordable. It's about, it probably costs as much as all the other ones like Ancestry and all the other ones, but I think this one is more science based. The other ones I feel are just educated guesses. Thanks, Creature Hut. Looking about 35. Thank you. I'm in my mid 40s now, so. But like I said, I run every day, like One Punch Man, 10K every day. So I'm about to do that. I didn't see Bombay. We might have lost him when I had to reconnect. But once this live stream is posted, he can still ask me the question, or anyone else, any of you guys can ask me a question. I'll still answer it. I will do another live stream again. I like these vertical live streams. This is a nice little feature that YouTube offers. So I'm gonna hit the streets, but not in that way. I'm gonna go run and do what I do, and I'll probably still hit the gym later this evening after I eat. But that's it. I just wanted to show how typical my own ancestry background is to most African Americans. That we're like more or less about 70% Black African, mostly Northwestern African, and about 15 or so more percent of uh, Northwestern European. So pretty typical, and that just gives you more background to the difference, because I've been asked this several times, what's the difference between foundational Black Americans and Africans from the continent, or Afro Latinos, or Afro Caribbeans. So that's pretty much it. And like I said, one of my ancestors supposedly is Thomas Jefferson. So when you say so, it doesn't get any more foundational than that than being related to one of the founding fathers of the country, right? Um, so that's all I have to say about that. Oh, let me finish with Creature Hub here. So, did you start off being able to do 10Ks or work your way up to it? Work my way up to it. This is one of the things I tell people. Anyone can run. Anyone can run. Matter of fact, we literally evolved to do so. Our ancestors, since we're getting back into hominid ancestors, our ancestors used to chase big prey by chasing them to exhaustion. They would chase their prey to exhaustion and then kill them once they could no longer run. Once we became, once our ape-like ancestors became strictly bipedal, they had an advantage over other animals, and they evolved that we can run long distances while still being psychologically being able to function, because a lot of other animals can't do that. Like, their vision will get blurry, they won't be able to breathe properly, and so forth. They won't be able to still mentally process things while running, especially long distance. This is a unique feature that humans can do, and maybe a few other animals. Um, so yeah, how I built up to it. I originally just started running like 2 miles, 2 miles a day. Like I've been running since like I joined the army long time ago. So I even before I even joined the army, I started getting fit, through my martial arts, just running around the block or running at one of my old high schools track, doing that. And like I said, I built up from 2 miles a day to 3 miles a day a year later, then from 3 miles a day to 4 miles a day, like another year later, and then like maybe 2 years later to 5 miles a day, and then eventually to 10K, which is 6.2 miles. Okay. And sometimes I go longer than that. I'll run 10 miles, which is like roughly 16.1 kilometers, or I'll run even a half marathon. I ran a little bit further than that, not a full marathon. I plan on doing that this fall, doing my first like official marathon. But anyone can build up to it. And you don't have to be fast. You can do a slow pace run, 4, 5, 6 miles a day. But anyone can really do it. I'm not special in that regard because I'm not especially fast. Okay, but yeah, anyone can do it. It might Now if you have certain dietary issues, you might have to um, you know do that to make sure that you can function while running. Because trust me, you want bubble guts while you're running, and you don't want to. I won't go there. That topic for another day. So I'm gonna end this. But yes, I built up to running 10K, and I believe anyone can do it if they really want to. It might just take some time, depending on your age, your level of fitness, and so forth. I do lift, but that's not my focus. I I'm more interested in overall fitness. I'm a combat athlete, and being able to press the whole gym doesn't make you a better fighter. Most of them can't. Matter of fact, most of those dudes just looking roided out can't fight worth the damn. I'm a knock Muay, which means Muay Thai fighter. We concentrate on um, endurance and stuff like that. So I trust me, I do hit the gym. Um, we were just there the other day doing leg day. For me, every day is leg day since I run every day, but specifically like strength exercises. Today I'm supposed to hit it today, and I guess we're gonna do like arms and chest. I think it's arms and chest day, not back day. But uh, the gym is not my focus. My focus is running, martial arts, calisthenics, because how many push-ups you can do per day is a better predictor of your overall cardiovascular health than how heavy you can lift. I do eat meat, bro. I think you're just being a troll at this point. And if you are serious about fighting, I'll leave. You know, my socials are in the description. We can link up, do it somewhere where we can film it, and I really don't have any restrictions when I fight. I let the person dictate how hard they want to go. But I, from my experience, because I called someone else out before, most people who say fight me in comment sections don't really want to fight. So let's knock it out. If you really want to do it, you'll leave it in my socials. My socials are in my description. But you're just a keyboard warrior. I've been doing martial arts since I was 7 years old. I've traveled the world to do martial arts from Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, and so forth. If you want to battle, we can. Again, I'm in Maryland. I'm sorry. I mean, I said I was in Maryland in this video. I'm in Maryland, but in any case, I don't know. Canal, you're tripping. Like, all right, so I'm gonna end this because he's being obtuse. Um, Again, I can fight, and I'm an army veteran. And aside from that, I live in Baltimore. You really don't want that in your life. That's all I'll say. If you've never seen The Corner, Homicide, or what's the one on the one that came on HBO, The Wire, that's pretty realistic of life here. So yeah, have fun in Miami, my friend. Like I said, anyone who actually wants to fight me can always go to my socials and we can set it up. It can be a friendly match or it can be a other than friendly match. But trust me, challenging the Nakmoy to fight is like asking a, it's like trying to wrestle a pig in mud. They love it. Like I'm a rather pugnacious person, so challenging me to a fight is like offering a kid candy. All right, so you're just being you're just showing your IQ at this point. So I'm gonna go. Um, you always have jokers in the comment section. I actually thought he was serious for a second that he would like to do it, but people who go off in comments are, you know, we know how social media is, guys. Also, let me take these glasses off because I don't like wearing these when when I'm not reading because they're only for reading. So anyway, that's it, guys. If you got any questions about foundational Black American stuff or the ancestry kit that I did through National Geographic Project, which is something that's done through National Geographic. I'll give more information on that if somebody wants the info for how they can take one of those ancestry kits. So like I said, I recommend it because it's the only one I know that's like science based, whereas all the other ones are just educated guessing. Um, or if you have any other general questions, if you got questions about running or fitness or whatever, martial arts, um, you can leave comments. I'll answer those as well. Like I said, if someone actually wants to fight or whatever, they can leave it in my socials, and I'll get back to them by email. Because my email will be in the description, and the other ways where I can be reached on social media. Thank you, Miss Ashlyn. I don't know if you watched most of the video. Thanks, Creature Hub. I'm gonna go, guys. Again, you can leave comments here after this live stream is posted or in my socials, whatever. I appreciate everyone for watching, even the trolls like Canelzoid. Okay. It always has to be one.